Alright, this is going to be a video on how to refill the Staedtler Mars Graphite 3000 Duo. So there's the marker, and I'm making this video for a friend named Ali, and he is from another country, and he's trying to refill these pens, and I'm going to share a video with you. So if you also use these markers, they can be refilled. I refill them with this. It's called SUFF, S-U-F-F. It's a weird font, but it's an airbrush food coloring bottle. It's about $5 at Michael's, which is like a Hobby Lobby or like a craft store. You might find these online, not too sure, but this is what I filled these markers up with. It's a food color, and it's what airbrush artists use for like cakes and stuff. It's a really high quality type of food coloring, so it's really good. The other one you could use is this one here. You can find it like at Walmart and stuff. It's a McCormick's brand black food coloring, and this is a little bit bigger bottle, and it's much cheaper. I think it's like $3 or something, maybe $4, and it has a little bit more. And I think I tried it one time. I didn't really like it. When it starts to get dry, the color, it's like a green, like a real dark green. It's black, but I don't know if I would trust it. Once it started doing that, I was like, I'm not too sure if I really trust it. But this one's really dark, rich black. And the food coloring, I hear, it doesn't fade after time. The ink that this comes with, it does fade. It might be years, but I hear it does fade. Like if it's in the direct sunlight, if you have it framed and the sun is going through the window, then it will fade. But my friend, Christopher, he says he's had this in direct sunlight. Not this specific one, but I think it's the McCormick's, but food coloring in general, he said it doesn't fade, and he's had it for years in the direct sunlight. It didn't fade, so that's one thing. But let's get started on how to refill these, or how I refill them. Christopher was the first person to introduce me to this, how to refill these pens with food coloring and stuff. So I'm thankful for him. And so what I do, let's just show you. Okay, so I take off the pen. This one, it just started going dry. So this will be the first time I refill this one. Okay, it's pretty dry. When you start seeing it do that, it's no good. So I take some pliers. These are the pliers that I use. They're heavy. I have these in my easel. I tried the small ones, the small like pliers, and the ones that are more narrow and thinner. They just don't work as well. I like ones with a lot of surface. If you can find some without these grooves though, it'd be really good, because this damages the marker. But the wider the better. You can get more surface on it. But I grab, let me see if I can show you. I like to grab right here. Okay, do you see that? There's a groove right there, and I try not to touch that groove. So I grab it not on top like that, but I grab it just outside the groove. Do you see that? Just outside it. And I do a little twist. I like to do a little twist. Once it starts moving, then I know I've got enough pressure that I'm applying, and then I start to pull. Just like that with my thumb. So I'll push the pliers there with my thumb as I'm pulling it with my other arm here, and then I'll just pull it out. And that's what you have here. That's how the tip looks. And this part goes right inside that little sponge. See that hole there? And that's the sponge we're going to refill. So I'll put this down like so, and then I'll get the food coloring, and I'll drop it about 20 times. I do 20 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I've tried doing it 25 times. It just, when I put the cap back on, it just really looks like it's overfilled when I start marking with it. But anyways, as you refill it, this little hole here starts to get wider, and it starts to kind of mess up. This tip here starts to damage this end of the sponge. So I'll flip it over after about 10 fills. I'll flip it over and put it back in. But you see how that looks? This part's kind of dry. It's kind of making its way. But after this end starts to look damaged, I'll just flip it around, and then I'll start using this end. This end is sending ink to this tip, which I don't use. So, but it's not damaged, so I'll flip it over to as I refill, as I get to number 20, because 20 is probably the max that you can fill these things in, and then it's no good no more. So here it is, it's refilled, and I'll add the cap right back on top. I'll try to put it right through the center. I'll try to match it up with that hole there, and once it's on there, you just press down. You just press down, and there you go. You just press it all the way down as far as you can. And it might take, I don't know, a few seconds for the ink to reach the end, depending on how dry it is. You might give it a little shake here or there. I usually put the cap back on and just face it the other direction in my easel. If I'm at an event, I carry two markers. I always have two markers. And I refill both of them, because if one goes dry, you don't want to be having to ink while you're like drawing someone, or while someone's sitting in front of you, because it does take time to open up these markers and refill them, and then it takes time for the ink to reach this tip here, especially if it's dry just like this. But if it's real dry, it'll take a while. But we'll let that ink, I'll show you in a little bit, it's refilled. After about 10 refills, this is how your marker is going to look. Oh, that's the wrong one. This is how the marker is going to look. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? You see the tip there? A normal Mars marker, a normal one looks just like this. Okay, you see that? It's a nice tip. And when you start to refill them, after about 10 refills, the tip starts to get really tiny, almost like a hairline. But it starts to make another tip, so it's got a tip on top of a tip, and it's real small, but it allows you to get real thin lines, real thin ones, for like a longer amount of time. I'll show you in a little bit, but it's real thin. It starts to do that, and eventually, when you get to refill number 20, when you start refilling it about 20, maybe 25 times, this tip, this little small one at the end, it will fall off. And when it falls off, it's no longer good. This is how the marker looks after it falls off. It's not, it loses its tip. It's kind of rounded. I guess you could still use it. I don't know for what. But that's the time I throw it away. But see how many times I've grabbed that end. I grabbed the tip and all the plastic is damaged. See, the reason why you don't want to touch this little groove is because that's what it uses to like close up. So once you lose that, it still closes pretty good. But once you lose this part, then it doesn't close as good. It doesn't tighten as well. Your ink will dry. I've never had this ink dry or anything, but this is what it uses to close. This is the area in which it has that pressure and it seals itself. But so you want to grab it on this end. But this has been refilled at least 20 times, and that tip broke off. But the closer I got to 20, the further along, throw that away, the further along the better. See, this one's ready now. So this is the one we refilled. The tip, this is the very first time that I refill this one. So the tip looks kind of brand new, but it's ready to go. It's ready to go. But I'll show you a few marks. The differences in a regular Mars marker. So this is the regular one. and this one here is the one that's been refilled. It's right here. See the tip? It's real fine. You can get a lot thinner lines, I'd say. The reason why this is good is because the thin lines you can make them at a longer rate. You can make them, they're thinner, I'd say, and you can make those thin lines for a longer distance. This one, it's a little harder because it doesn't have that tip. I guess you could still do it, but they're just a little thicker. But the way you make these thin lines is not by holding it to the side. You don't hold it at an angle and try to do thin lines this way. You try to hold it straight up as possible, and then your pinky is touching the surface, and you have to master the distance. You have to master the distance. Once you can get to know where that tip will touch, how much it'll take, how far your marker has to go. Once you know that distance and when that tip touches the paper, then you can just slide your hand across. You can slide your hand across this way and make real thin lines. And this one allows you to do that a lot easier because it has that special extra tip at the end. So you hold it straight up, and then you find that distance. You hold your pinky, touch your pinky on the surface, and then your other fingers will bring the marker up and down. And once you can find that distance, once it touches, you just slide your arm across, and you make that real thin line all the way across. So, the reason why you don't want to hold it to the side also is because when you start to get that little point, and let's say you have it to the side this way, you have it angled. If you do like an eyelash or something, you see those extra little lines? See how it has those extra little lines, little spaces and stuff right there? You don't want that. So the way you get rid of that is you make sure your marker is up. You got to go straight up. You can't have it at an angle. You have to have your marker straight up, and then you'll get rid of those lines. So you can have it at an angle sometimes, but the main way you draw with this is straight up. So that's how you use this marker too, also, especially when you're going to be refilling it, because you're going to be getting all those little points at the end of your tip. Also, it has one paper cut already. I don't know if you can see that. There's a paper cut right here, or at the end of my fingernail right there. But that's because of the paper. When I'm drawing, I draw real fast, and it goes across the paper at the edge, and it makes that paper cut. So those are not good, but I don't think it's affected the way I draw or anything at all yet. But anyways, this is the ink. This is how it looks now. So it's really good. I like it. I enjoy it. That's the way you refill them, and I hope you enjoyed it.